Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya
Jaya
Nityananda
Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
श्री चैतन्य चरितामृत की जय।
Jai
कृष्णदास कविराज गोस्वामी की जय।
Jai
श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय।
Jai
सामवेद गौर भक्त वृंद की जय।
Jai
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome to today's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita reading, and congratulations to Sri Narasimha Prahaladeshwar Prabhu on
Thank
your.
you, Mataji.
You can change your name now, Prabhuji.
Okay,
Your Zoom
I'll
name.
change. I'll change.
Okay, so we will begin. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 16. Lord Chaitanya's pastimes of later childhood and youth. So that is his Kaishora Leela and his Yovan Leela. Chapter 16. Yeah, the pastimes of the Lord in his childhood and youth. So childhood means here later childhood. So in this we saw Mahaprabhu started teaching already, and then when he went to East Bengal. I think that's how he started, because he was already married to Lakshmi Priya by the end of his Pauganda Leela. So then now he started teaching, and he's still playful. That's his personality, but he's also very much absorbed in studies, and struck with wonder by the influence of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's intellectual prowess, many hundreds of students came to the Lord and began studying. We saw that. And then Mahaprabhu went to East Bengal, and there he induced everyone in chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? He was actually doing the Sankirtan there. He was inducing everyone to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and also he educated them in the scriptures when he stayed there. And also we read about Tapan Mishra, a Brahmana who was well versed in the scriptures, but who could not understand what is the goal of life. He read so many books, so many scriptures, but he didn't understand what is the goal of life, and this disturbed him. So one Brahmana came in his dream and guided him to go to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he was the Supreme Lord himself and was capable of guiding him. So Tapan Mishra went to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, in essence, you just chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? It's as simple as that. And then as far as your other questions about what is the goal of life, how to achieve the goal, you will know that you go to Varanasi from here. And in future, I'm going to meet you in Varanasi, and there your questions will be answered. So by this the Lord also indicated that in future he was going to take sannyas and he was going to Varanasi, and there he would be instructing Sanatan Goswami. He would be staying at Tapan Mishra's home there. That's how Tapan Mishra would hear the conversation of Mahaprabhu and Sanatan Goswami. So like this. And then Mahaprabhu understood that his wife Lakshmi Priya, because of separation from the Lord, had left this world. So then, in order to pacify Sachimata, he immediately went back to Navadvip. So when he went to Navadvip, his mother was very much bereaved because of the departure of her daughter-in-law. So Mahaprabhu pacified her by teaching her the, tattva, right? Giving the tattva katha. That means the reality of life. So that so Srila Prabhupada explained that with the verse Dehi nosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara, right? So if we are Krishna conscious throughout our life, then whatever we remember at the time of our departure, that will be our destination. If we are Krishna conscious throughout our life, then at the time of departing also we will be thinking of Krishna, so our future is bright. About Lakshmi Priya, it is said that she was bitten by the snake of separation, and then therefore she went back to Vaikuntha, it is said. So there Srila Prabhupada explained she went back to Vaikuntha means because what was her consciousness at the time of leaving? She was feeling so much separation from the Lord. She was absorbed in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So therefore she went back to Vaikuntha. Srila Prabhupada is explaining like that for us. Of course, we understand Lakshmi Priya is the eternal consort. She is the goddess of fortune herself. So she went back to Vaikuntha. But the important point is how Mahaprabhu pacified his grieving mother. That is important. He spoke to her about transcendental knowledge. So that's where we ended yesterday. So Mahaprabhu said, so he gave this Tattva Katha, right? That as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. So verses like this from Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, when a sober person understands this, that the soul never dies, then he will not be disturbed. Even when someone leaves his body, he won't be disturbed like that. So Mahaprabhu pacified his mother. We'll continue from the next verse, text 24. Shishya gana loya punah vidyara vilasa vidya bole sabajini adhatya prakasha. So Achintadev Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Prabhuji. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Translation. After coming back from East Bengal, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu again began educating others. By the strength of his education, he conquered everyone, and thus he was greatly proud. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah, thank you. So Mahaprabhu returned from East Bengal, and once again he started. Everybody was waiting for him. So once again he began teaching. And by the strength of his education, he conquered everyone, and he was greatly proud. This was also the personality of Mahaprabhu. He would challenge anyone and defeat them. So he appeared to be very proud. But he conquered everyone, right? He was proud, but it didn't hurt others. That's the interesting thing. Even the people that he defeated, their honor was never attacked. Tabe Vishnu Priya Thakurani ra parinaya, tabe takorila Prabhu Digvijayi Jaya. So Narasimha Prahladeshwar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Dandavat Pranam Prabhuji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Then Lord Chaitanya married Vishnupriya, the goddess of fortune, and thereafter he conquered a champion of learning named Yeshabo Kashmiri.
Yeah. So as Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said that Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said that he's not going to tell these pastimes in details because they're already said in detail in Chaitanya Bhagavat. So he's not going to go into details here. So they're given in sutras, right? So once again, he became a teacher, and now he married Vishnu Priya, his second consort, second wife. And then he also conquered Keshav Kashmiri, like that. In one line, he said. Purport, Isha. First paragraph.
As in the modern day, there are many champions in sports. So, in bygone days, there were many learned scholars in India who were champions in learning. One such person was Keshav Kashmiri, who came from the state of Kashmir. He traveled all over India and at last came to Navadvip to challenge the learned scholars there. Unfortunately, he could not conquer the learned scholars in Navadvip, for he was defeated by the boy scholar Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Later, he understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus, he surrendered unto him and later became a pure Vaishnava in the Sampradaya of Nimbarka. He wrote Kaustubha Prabha, a commentary on the Vedanta commentary of the Nimbarka Sampradaya, which is known as the Parijata Bhashya.
Yes. So, as in the modern day, there are many champions in sports. Yes, nowadays we have champions in sports. You have various sports. You have soccer, and you have football, and you have baseball, and all these in America, and then you have cricket, right? Badminton, like this, tennis. So you have some, big champions in all these different sports who are very famous. They defeat everyone else, right? They get the big trophy. So like this, in bygone days, right? Back in those days, there were champion scholars in India, and they were champions in learning, and they could defeat other scholars, and they were well known. So there was one such champion called Keshava Kashmiri. So he would travel all over India. He would go to different provinces, kingdoms or provinces, and he would challenge the scholars there. He would defeat them, and he would make them sign on a Jayapatra or Vijayapatra that he has conquered them. They admit their defeat and they sign. And taking that, he would go to different places. Practically all the kingdoms or provinces in India, he would go. He would challenge, and he would get the letter signed. And if somebody was too scared to even face him in a debate, they can just sign without even debating. And he would just go to the next province. Like this, after conquering all the learned scholars all over India, he came to Navadvip. And in Navadvip, unfortunately, when he came to Navadvip, even the scholars in Navadvip were very worried, because Navadvip was known as a center of learning. Navadvip was people would come from all over the world to come and study in Navadvip. And now this Digvijayi Pandit, after conquering everyone else, is coming to Navadvip. So Navadvip's fame of being the center of all learning was at stake. Why did these scholars fear this Digvijayi Pandit? This Digvijayi Pandit got the personal audience of Saraswati Devi, and she blessed him that whenever he spoke anything, she would personally sit on his tongue and she would speak. So, what human being could defeat such a person? When he said something, it was Saraswati Devi speaking. So, who can defeat such a person? So, all the scholars, they all were aware that Saraswati Devi is the goddess of learning. How will we face this person? So, they were afraid. And he has already proved himself, conquered everyone now, and now he's coming to Navadvip. So then all of them got together, all the scholars in Navadvip, they got together, and they made a plan. Nimai Pandit is well known as a great scholar. He has defeated everyone in Navadvip. But he was still a child, you saw, right? Now, when he was a teacher, what was his age? He was between 11 and 15 years old. He was not even a youth, between 11 and 15 years old. So they thought, we will arrange a debate uh, between this Keshav Kashmiri, Digvijay Pandit, and Nimai. And if Digvijay Pandit wins, as he won everywhere else, then we will just say, oh, what's so great? Okay, we lost the battle, but it was just against a boy, so it's okay, right? So we will still not lose our honor. And if actually Nimai wins this debate, oh, what an honor it's going to be for Navadip, right? Like that. So they made this plan. That's what they thought. So anyway, but the result was, Prabhupada is saying here, that unfortunately, this Digvijay Pandit could not conquer the learned scholars in Navadvip, for he was defeated by the boy scholar, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Later, he understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, actually, before the actual debate, formal debate, where they would arrange a place and formally everyone would be seated and they would have a formal debate, before that took place, Nimai arranged in such a way that one evening, so every evening he would go to the bank of the river Ganges with his students and he would just be lecturing to them their daily classes. So they would have classes in the morning, and after lunch they will take a break, they'll go home, right? They'll have their lunch, take a nap and all that. And then again in the late afternoon or evening, they'll go take bath in the Ganga and again they will start their studies until evening, like that. So one evening Mahaprabhu was on the bank of the Ganges, and at the same time Keshav Kashmiri also came there to the bank of the Ganges. And there he was very much attracted to the beauty of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's sitting there with all his students. He looked like the moon surrounded by stars. And he was completely enchanted by the beauty of Nimai Pandit. And he didn't know who this was. And he went and asked somebody, who is that? And they said, this is Nimai Pandit. Oh, this is the famous Nimai Pandit. So he just went. And he also joined the group just listening to Mahaprabhu. So when Mahaprabhu saw him, he cordially invited him, right? And then, there was like a formal introduction, exchanging. And then Mahaprabhu said, oh, you are the famous Digvijay Pandit. We are so honored you're here. Can you please, we know that you are a very learned person. Now that we are all sitting on the bank of the river Ganges, can you say some words of glorification of Mother Ganga? So right there on the spot, he composed, like on the spot, as he was speaking, he was composing and speaking for 1 hour, or was it 3 hours? Continuously, 3 hours? Continuously without stopping. I mean, where do you find such a scholar? Have you ever seen any scholar like that in your life? And it was in perfect Sanskrit he was speaking, poetry, right, with beautiful alankaras and chandas and everything. And he was reciting like a wind, like at the speed of wind, composing on the spot 100 verses glorifying Ganga Devi. And the students, they couldn't figure out what was going on, but just the way he was reciting, they were like, Baap re baap, what kind of a scholar is this person, right? Like that. They were like awestruck. And when he finished finally, Mahaprabhu said, very nice, but your language is so high with so many decorations, we couldn't even understand what you said. So can you please, you yourself, give a commentary on your verses that you have spoken, like that? And then this Vijay Pandit just started to give a commentary, and Nimai interrupted and he said, I forget the exact number, but something like in the 64th verse, the second line, you use this, right? Like that, he caught some faults. Particularly, there was one fault about Bhavani. Bhava means Lord Shiva, Bhavani means Lord Shiva's wife. So there, to address, Parvati Devi, he said, to address Lord Shiva, he said, Bhavani Bharta. To say Parvati Devi's husband, he said Bhavani Bharta. But Bhavani itself means the wife of Lord Shiva. The very word Bhavani means the wife of Lord Shiva. Bhavani Bharta means Lord Shiva's wife's husband. That means she has some other husband. That's the meaning that will come from that. So Lord Chaitanya caught that. And in this way, he found faults. And this Digvijay Pandit never had such an experience. Nobody could even dare speak in front of him because most of the time people didn't even understand what he said. What to speak of pointing out exactly which number, verse, and what he said, repeating the same verse, simply hearing it once. And once, along with so many other verses at such a speed. So this completely bewildered this Digvijay Pandit. And then he made a very feeble attempt to explain. And then Mahaprabhu found faults in his explanations. Soon this Keshav Kashmiri went completely blank. He forgot what his name was, who he was, where he was. He went fully blank. He was like in daze. He didn't know anything. And then seeing his condition, Mahaprabhu was very kind to him. And the students seeing that and they were laughing. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately stopped the students. He said, don't laugh. So he protected the honor of Digvijay Pandit. Remember, this is not a formal debate. This was just, he just requested, can you just say something about Ganga Devi? And there, right there, he put him in his place, right? Showing him what was his position. And then he said, you must be very tired after reciting so many verses and it's late. You go to bed and, you go and revise your books. And tomorrow you come back and I will ask you more questions. We'll have good time tomorrow, like that. So he went back. And when he went home, he was so disturbed. How did this happen? Goddess Saraswati had given me this benediction that nobody will ever be able to defeat me. How is it that when I said something, there were faults in that? And how could this person he even said to Nimai, how could you even, catch, like, even remember the verse that I said? So Nimai said, the way you are, you can speak without any faults by the blessing of Goddess Saraswati. I also am blessed and I'm Shruti Dhara. Shruti Dhara means anything that I hear once, I never forget. So like that. So when Mahaprabhu, when this Keshav Kashmiri went home, he was very disturbed. He couldn't sleep all night and he kept praying to Goddess Saraswati, did you abandon me? The blessing that you gave to me, did I lose that blessing? He was very disturbed. And somehow or other, just before morning, he fell asleep. And when he fell asleep, he got darshan of Goddess Saraswati. She appeared in his dream and she said, my dear Keshav Kashmiri, I didn't abandon you or anything, but the person that you talked to today, that you met today, he is my master. He is the supreme personality of Godhead. What power do I have to stand in front of him? I feel so shy, I cannot stand in front of him. Therefore, I had to leave. And then she also instructed him, you should go to him and you should surrender your life to him. The benediction which I gave to you before to be a Digvijayi Pandit, that was not the real benediction of my being pleased with your worship. My real benediction is what you got today. You got face-to-face audience with the Supreme Lord. Now you have all my blessings. You go and surrender your life to the Supreme Lord. In this way she said. And then when he woke up in the morning, he was very pleased. He got up and immediately he left. He went to Nimai's home early in the morning. And then he went and he fell flat in front of Nimai's lotus feet. And Nimai Pandit said, oh, my dear Digvijay Pandit, what is this? Why are you behaving like this? Then he said how Goddess Saraswati came to him in his dream and explained everything. So the Lord said, yes, but don't reveal this to anyone. And you stay around for some time, you'll see many wonders, but don't tell anyone. If you tell anyone, your life will end abruptly. So Keshav Kashmiri very happily went. So by the way, when Keshav Kashmiri came, he had come with a big procession, right? With riding on elephant, with palanquins and so many followers, band and everything, front and behind, like we would see in the Hathi procession in Mayapur, something like that. He would have a big procession before him and after him, and he would be like riding there. And wherever he went, he would go in a procession. So after this incident, he got rid of all his, followers and his elephants and everything. He became very, very humble, and he traveled around like that. He stayed in Navadvip for some time, and he continued to travel. So that is Keshav Kashmiri. How Keshav Kashmiri was defeated by Nimai, who was only a boy scholar. So therefore it is said later he understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus he surrendered unto him and later became a pure Vaishnava in the Sampradaya of Nimbarka. Okay, so Keshav Kashmiri became a Vaishnava in the Sampradaya of Nimbarka. So Nimbarka Sampradaya means this is the Kumara Sampradaya, right? He wrote Kaustubha Prabha, a commentary on the Vedanta commentary of the Nimbarka Sampradaya. So you see, each of the four Sampradayas have their particular philosophy. The other day, in the temple class I was saying, like the Madhva Sampradaya, they have their Purna Pragya Bhasha, right? That is Shuddha Dvaita philosophy. Then the Sri Sampradaya, they have the Sri Bhashya by Ramanujacharya. And theirs is the Vishishta Advaita philosophy. Similarly, you have the Rudra Sampradaya by Vishnu Swami. They have one commentary, I forget the name, right? And then we have Nimbarka Sampradaya. So their commentary is called Parijata Bhashya. Like this, everyone has a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So this Keshav Kashmiri, he wrote a commentary on the commentary. So the commentary of the Nimbarka Sampradaya is Parijata Bhashya. Keshav Kashmiri wrote a commentary on that commentary called Kaustubha Prabha. Okay, next paragraph. Krishna Shish.
Ratnakar mentions Keshav Kashmiri and lists his predecessors in the disciplic succession of the Nimbarka Sampradaya. 1. Srinivasacharya, Vishwacharya, Purushottam, Vilasa, Sarupa, Madhava, Balabhadra, Padma, Shyama, Gopala, Kripa, Deva Acharya, Sundara Bhatta, Padmanabha, Upendra, Ramachandra, Vamana, Krishna, Padmakara, Shravana, Bhuri, Madhava, Shyama, Gopala, Balabhadra, Gopinath, Keshava, Gokula, and Keshav Kashmiri. It is stated in the Bhakti Ratnakar that Keshav Kashmiri was a favorite devotee of Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning. By her grace, he was an extremely influential scholar, and he was the greatest champion among all the scholars in the four corners of the country. Therefore, he got the title Digvijay, which means one who has conquered everyone in all directions. He belonged to a very respectable Brahmana family of Kashmir. Later, by the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he gave up the profession of winning championships and became a great devotee. He joined the Nimbarka Sampradaya, one of the Vaishnava communities of the Vedic culture.
That is Keshava Kashmiri. Next, 26. Vrindavana dasa iha koriya chena vistar sputa nahi kore dosha gunera vichar. Madhava.
Vrindavan Thakur has previously elaborately described this, that which is clear need not to be scrutinized for good qualities and fault.
Yes, it's very, very clear, the whole pastime. given by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, so there's no need to scrutinize it for good qualities and faults. Say amsha kohi tare kori namaskar, ja shuni digvijayi koila apana dikkar. Rasapriya.
After my obeisances to Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, I shall try to describe that portion of the Lord's analysis, which
When he heard
it, made the Digvijay Pandit feel condemned.
So the whole story, the whole pastime, I'm not going to narrate because the pastime is given nicely, elaborately in Chaitanya Bhagavat. But the philosophical point where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu caught Digvijay Pandit and which actually made the Digvijay Pandit feel himself condemned, that point I'm going to elaborate on because that was not elaborated in Chaitanya Bhagavat. So whatever was not elaborated there, I will highlight on that. Okay, next, Priyanka Mataji. Jyotsnavati Ratri Prabhu Shishya Gana Sange Bosiya Chena Ganga Tire Vidyara Prasange.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Once on a full moon night, the Lord was sitting on the bank of the Ganges with his many disciples and discussing literary topics.
Yes, so one full moon night, Mahaprabhu was sitting on the bank of river Ganges and he was discussing many literary topics with the students. Heno kale digvijayi tahai aila Ganga re vandana kori Prabhu re milila. Nilambari Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, pranams, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Pranam Mataji, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Coincidentally, Keshav Kashmiri Pandit came there. While offering his prayers to Mother Ganges, he met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Yes, so when Hare Krishna, when Mahaprabhu was having a discussion with his students, coincidentally, right, at the same time, Digvijay Pandit happened to come there with no prior plans or anything. He just happened to come there and he saw Mahaprabhu. First of all, he offered obeisances to Mother Ganges and he went and met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So the rest we will read tomorrow. Thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.